What happened to my old guild, Legends Anonymous? Great question. I would say that, oh shit. One second here. So I'll be as brief as I can. So in Tomb of Sargeras, essentially what happened was, I found out my wife was pregnant a couple weeks after the tier started, and Tomb of Sargeras, as you guys know, was a very, very difficult tier in terms of like re-clear and farm and stuff like that, right? Like it just wasn't. Anything with Nighthold, like it just wasn't conducive to like farming. Like you couldn't just outgear the content and just smash through it like you could like Siege of Orgrimmar. And my guild was running into issues because we had to get we had lost 2 of our. Yeah, see, look, now I have to go back. This is gonna be a long story. I'll probably clip this one. But so right before Tomb of Sargeras launches, right, I find out that that I'm losing my tank. No, both of my tanks, and one of my tanks, mind you, is also our raid leader in that he was the one coming up with all of our strats and a fantastic main tank. We also lost another one of our main tanks. So both tanks gone right before Tomb of Sargeras launched. And we actually, funny story is we actually did a pretty good job of finding replacement tanks. We replaced the tanks, and at the beginning of the tier, we actually had, if you go back and look at our progress in Tomb of Sargeras, we, within 1 month, got to kill Jaden. So within 1 month, we were on heroic kill Jaden, and we should have killed him in like, so it could have been one of our best tiers, even though we were having issues like re-clearing farm bosses like Mistress and Sisters, just because mechanically they were just so tough. So we go through that, and then we literally could not re-kill Fallen Avatar. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, I was so embarrassed. We wiped like 100 times trying to re-clear Fallen Avatar, and both of our tanks decide to quit. our newly recruited tanks decide that they're just gonna quit. And now we had to find 2 new tanks, which we ended up, instead of recruiting 2 new tanks, because there was a lull period during Tomb, there wasn't a lot of recruitment going on, it was kind of difficult. We actually ended up getting my brother and another one of our DPSers as replacements. Now, mind you, it wasn't that big of a deal, but the problem was that when you use people to replace, like when you use people already in your guild to replace the ones you have, you lower your raid roster size. So instead of recruiting to replace, we just used what we had, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but like I said, it reduced our raid roster size, just losing those 2 people and not replacing them. So we limped through Kill Jaden. He became the single highest wipe count boss we had ever had, 138 wipes or something like that. I can actually pull up ERT. I'll show you. Let's go ERT. Let's go to statistics bosses. Go to heroic mode. Look, Kill Jaden, 138 wipes on heroic Kill Jaden. And here's the crazy part, right? Like, you look at these stats, like, we did pretty well, but we wiped 30 times to kill Mistress the first time, and then like 26 on Maiden, and you see we kill them several times. Like, look at Maiden, look at Avatar, look at Mistress. We wiped 27 times to kill the boss 8 more times. So we're wiping on average 3 times to kill a far boss. Same with Desolate Host, same thing with even more so on Maiden of Vigilance. So you see all this, how much pressure we're going through under this tier. And then I'm going through what I'm going through in terms of my wife being pregnant, thinking like, oh man, like my whole life's changing. All of a sudden, things that I used to care about, I don't care about anymore. Like, WoW, I wasn't into WoW as much as I was, because now I had another human being that was going to be a little baby to look after that I've never done before. So I was just spent. And actually, we actually had a really rough time during Trial of Valor, and I actually announced to my officers that Legion was going to be my last expansion. So I was just going to, finish out the expansion and call it quits then. And I wish that had been the way things turned out, but it's not the way things turned out. So I made the decision to just quit right after Tomb of Sargeras. And we got ourselves a follow, Mr. Megatron. What's up, brother? So that was what happened. I'm good, Omega. How you doing, brother?
In your blind rage, you rush to face my ogres.
So yeah, like I was saying, so I left right after Tomb. How's WAD treating? You know, I thought they were gonna let me have it like wide open to where I could just go to any zone, but I have to go through Frostfire, and I hate Frostfire because I was Alliance during WAD, so I don't know it that well, and I just want to go to like Gorgrond or other places. But it is what it is. I'm just leveling the rogue, having some fun. Oh. I get any new abilities? I did. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
We must fortify. You are too cautious.
Frostwolf.
Gather our warriors and do it myself.
But yeah, that's to answer your question, Romero. That's what happened. Was I had to leave Entomb, and a lot of people don't know this, but my old guild that I ran, they raided for into BFA, and they ended up leaving. And if you look at our guild's old kills, I left with 20 people in our raid. That was it. That's all we had left when we killed Kil'jaeden. And when they went to Antorus, they didn't do any recruiting. They didn't do any. And they just kept a small raid roster, and because they had such a small raid roster, they could never, they had issues progressing because you kept losing people, and if you don't replace them, you know, that would have been. What would I have done differently? Obviously recruit, because like I said, you know, they collapsed because when I left, I was the recruiter in Legends Anonymous. Like anybody that was in the guild, I was the one that recruited them in. And then when I left, they just decided they were just going to run a smaller group. They weren't going to recruit. I think they recruited 4 people in a year and a half. Like 4 new people came into the guild. When I ran the guild, there was like, I recruited hundreds of people over time, you know? So it was just one of those things where, let's see. So they just didn't recruit, and that was the biggest thing, right? They just didn't recruit, and when you don't recruit, you're gonna lose people. That's what they did. That's what ended up happening. They didn't recruit, and when you don't recruit, you don't get players to show up, and you don't win. And that's what happened. That's what I would have done differently. I would have recruited. I can't say that most guilds can survive. Any guild that survived BFA deserves a medal, because BFA was almost as bad as, if not as bad as WAD.